Hello everyone, Ripan here from Language Academy, and this is our part 2 for the video of reorders. So I hope the part 1 gave you something, you got some hints, some information, and we'll try to do the same, or rather we'll try to be more elaborative, explain more, give you more hints in this video as well. So we did 20 till 24 in the previous one. So we are starting with the 25th question. The 25th question says, and let's take a marker. The 25th question says the European Union has two big fish problems. So we have noun, name of an organization, and then it has two big fish problems. We look at the following sentence. It says one is that, so it is a direct link with what we just said, that we have two problems. So we are explaining them one by one, saying one is that partly as a result of its failure to manage them properly, its own fisheries can no longer meet European demand. The other is that, so again, a very good start and very clear relationship. We have two problems. One is this, the other is this. The other is that its government won't confront their fishing lobbies and decommission all the surplus boats. The EU has tried to solve both problems. So before we say both problems, we have to put them one by one, only then we can say solve both problems. By sending its fishermen to West Africa since 1979, it has struck agreements with the government of Senegal, granting our fleets access to its waters. And what happened as a result of doing this? Senegal's marine ecosystem has started to go the same way as ours. So here we introduced that there was some kind of agreement with the government of Senegal, means the government of some country or some territory or some state. And that is where we got introduction of what is Senegal. And then we say Senegal's marine, and first we introduce that that's a place, and then we'll go continue talking about its marine ecosystems. But as a result, made it very clear. So in this question, it was kind of startings of the sentences that served as a hint that we have two problems. One is this, the other is this. We have tried to solve both of them, and what is the result of that try that the EU made. So we really hope that you get more of these kind of reorders in the exam, but you have to prepare for the other ones at the same time. The next one, 26. Okay, along with solving questions, we'll try to understand what are the different types or the basis on which the questions are framed. For example, the previous one, which we did about this, the European Union has two big fish problems. It was more of a scenario being discussed, like the EU is facing two problems, and what are those two problems, and what action was taken to solve. Sometimes this 26th one, sometimes we are given the questions based on a story in which they have different tenses. For example, they start with past, then they move on to present, and then end in the future tense. So that's also a base on which you can try to solve your questions. In this one, they started with the past story. They said during the school year we had the benefit. Now had means something which happened in the past. We had the benefit of being both unaccountable and omnipotent. Now what we understand is during the school year, we understand we had the benefit of being two things. There were two benefits that we had. Even if we do not understand the meanings of those two words, it's easy to understand they are talking about past tense. We could, again past tense, we could engage in impassioned debates about how, as chief executive of certain company, we would have done this, or if we had been the banker on that deal, we would have structured it like that. So these are a few examples that they have given, that when we are in school, we try to personify ourselves as, like, sometimes we assume that if I would be the banker, I'll take this decision. If I would be the chief executive of the company, I would have done this. So these are all the things that they are talking about that we do when we are in school. Insulated from the consequences of such decisions. Now, such means you should have talked about some decisions. And where have we talked about decisions is this. We just said that if we would have been chief executive of a certain company, we would have done this. This is the decision we would have taken. If we had been the banker on a deal, we would have structured it like this. So these are the decisions that if I would be the banker, I would have taken this decision. So this is being referred as such decisions, and that's why it comes after. And privy to all critical information about the case, we were able to solve. Again, we were able to solve complex business problems with relative ease. So a lot of hints. First is introduction, that what time period we are talking about, past. We are giving situations that what we now normally do when we are in school. And then such decisions, because we just talked about 2 decisions, even though as an example. We knew that once we began our internships, this would no longer be the case. Now, this means at that time we knew means, again, past tense. At that time we knew that once we began our internships. Now, obviously, internships is a word which is after completing the school, when you step into the real world and you start your internships. So we have finished the school part here, and then we are transiting into internship time. This would no longer be the case. This means now we don't assume things when we start our internships, we actually do the work. The information would be, now can you see that here the tense has transited from we knew, this would no longer be the case. The information would be, now we are talking about what is going to happen in the future. The information would be more nebulous, and the outcomes of our decisions would be unpredictable. That once we start the internships, then information also increases, then whatever decisions we take, the outcomes are very unpredictable at that time. And then so is the overall crux of whatever discussion we had. So in approaching this impending summer period, what lingered in the back of our minds was a collectively felt unspeakable thought: were we really up to the challenge? So this is why is it coming at the end? Because we discussed in the last video as well, whenever we have a question mark and there is no discussion on what the question was asked, then the question mark sentences come at the end. So there were 2 hints to put this sentence at the end. One was this starting so, which tells us that we are kind of concluding something, and we have a question mark and there is absolutely no discussion on this question mark sentence, and that is why we are finishing here, because we don't have further information about it. So these are the things. This question particularly, I would say it's a good example of that some kind of questions are based on tense as well. So you have to start from a particular tense and flow the information accordingly. And yes, move on to the next one, 27. Some kind of questions are just facts. Facts means which are like, our brain has 2 parts. One is called this, one is called that. That's not a story. Those are facts. Facts which are true to a life. Facts which do not change now and then, today and tomorrow. They are going to remain the same. So those kind of questions are also there. So in those questions, what we need to do is to match the information together. For example, 27th is a good example for that. This says, our brain's learning process is linked to our synapses, which serve as connections between our neurons. So this is no story, this is a fact. It is talking about the learning process of our brain. It is linked to something which is called synapses, and this thing serve as connections between our neurons. We don't really need to understand what is this, but only the elements that we are talking about. Brain's learning process, it is linked to something and it serve as connections. The more the synapse is stimulated, the more the connection is reinforced and learning improved. So obviously this is broader sentence where we are giving the facts that we are talking about the brain's learning process, and what are the other elements which are linked to the brain's learning process. And then we explained that how does it work. The more the synapse, the more the connection. And we have introduced both the things in the previous sentence. Synapses, like what and where are synapses, and which connections are we talking about? We are talking about the connections between our neurons. So here the connection is a connection between neurons, and synapse is something which is linked to our learning process. Researchers took inspiration from this mechanism. Now, this mechanism means we should have already talked about some working. Mechanism is a working. So the previous sentence talked about the more one thing, the more is the other. So this is how it works. So this mechanism means the working that we have explained before. And then they said researchers took inspiration from this mechanism to design an artificial synapse called 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗃𝗲𝗴𝗏. So they have designed an artificial synapse. So researchers have designed something. Artificial means they have made something. And then the next one says this electronic component. So we just talked about that they have designed something artificial, only then we'll say this component, because in any of the previous sentences, there was no component. They were all natural things that our body has. And the parts of our body are not known as components. And moreover, electronic, definitely not. So this electronic component consists of a thin ferroelectric layer sandwiched between two electrodes. So this electronic component means we have artificially made something, and the more the synapse is the relationship to what is synapse and what are the connections that we have talked about. So this would be based on, if your question is based on facts, then you have to will generally have hints like this mechanism, this electronic. So just try to understand again the overall context, not like our brain's learning process is linked to our synapses. So you have to think of what are they talking about. It does not matter. Just highlight the elements and you will definitely get hints about one of the elements in the following sentences. 𝑠28th United Nations Conference. Conferences have played a key role in guiding the work of the United Nations since its very inception. A very, very general sentence, like we say, this plays an important role, this plays a key role. So the element is conferences, and we are talking about conferences in guiding the work of United Nations. We have UN also in this. In fact, now how do we use, or when do we use in fact, is again when we have said something in a very, very general form, and then we want to emphasize one particular aspect of that general sentence, and we say in fact. The world body was born when delegates from 50. So the world body is the reference. The world body is referring to UN. The world body was born when delegates from 50 nations met in San Francisco in April 1945 for the United Nations Conference on International Organization. So the important hint was, in fact, means we are going to give very detailed information about something that we said in a general way. And the world body means we are referencing to a world body, and then we gave the information about where was it born. The recent high-profile conferences on development issues, often held at the summit level, have continued a series that began in the 1970s and broken new ground in many areas by involving presidents, prime ministers, and other heads of state as pioneered at 1990 World Summit for Children. These events. So another thing that you can do is when you have 5 sentences in a question, let's say you found out the first one, you dragged the second one. Now we are left with these 3 sentences. Now with these 3 sentences, you're finding third one to match with the second one. So you're again and again reading the second one, and again reading the next 3, 4, 5, and you're unable to find any relationship of second with any of the other sentences. It is possible. So what I want you want to highlight here is, don't get stuck that you have done one, you have done second. Now you want desperately third one to match with second. That may or may not be there. So try it once, try it twice. Don't do it again. Then what you should do is keep 1 and 2 on the other side and arrange 3, 4, 5 with each other. Don't try to make reference to the second one, because it's possible that there's no reference between 2 and 3, or there's no reference between 3 and 4. For example, these 1, 2, let's say we have dragged. Now we are not looking at 1, 2, only looking at 3, 4, 5. We read third one. They were talking about some conferences on development issues and continued a series in 1970s. And then we have World Summit for Children. These events. Now these events means we have talked about some events. These problems means we have talked about some problems. So these events will come after this sentence, because we talked about conferences, we talked about world summits. And then these events have put long-term difficult problems like poverty, environmental degradation. So then we say these problems, and what are these problems? And we just talk poverty and environmental degradation. So the only thing to learn from here is, don't be very, very rigid in your approach that I will find 1, I will find 2, and then I'll find 3, and then 4, and then 5. 1, 2, 3 is not finding, try again, leave it. Try some other method. Let's put 3, 4, 5 with each other. Let's forget 1 and 2. So in exam, that's why it is said that you have to be very, very active and vigilant, because there are lots of techniques and you have to quickly take a decision that if one thing is not working, I have to move on to the next one, rather than keep waiting and keep yourself stuck at the thing that I want to solve it this way only. So be flexible. Crisp and short. Next one. 29. Working memory capacity. So this says, researchers studied groups of people from the University of this ranging in age from 18 to 65. A lot of times we have reorders which talk about scientific researches, experiments. So that's also one type of questions that we get. In those questions, verbs play a very important role. Verbs like, they began the study in this year, the aim of the study was this, they collected the data, then for example, they studied these groups and they concluded, or they found, they concluded. So these found, concluded, began, collected, even only and only these words can decide your sequence, because you don't really need to understand what are they doing. You just have to say what happens first. First the study begins, then they might collect information, then they might study that information, then they analyze that information, then they find the result out of that information, and then they conclude. So information is not important. Looking at verbs is important in those questions. Let's see what happens here. Researchers studied groups of people from some university ranging in age from 18 to 65. So two important things, they have studied groups of people and the age of people were 18 to 65. The first group was asked to perform simple tasks like pressing a button every time they took a breath, or clicking in response to a letter popping up on a computer screen. These tasks were so easy that their minds were likely to wander, the researchers figured. So they were studying, they asked to perform something, and when they were performing, they figured out this thing. The researchers checked in periodically, asking the participants if their minds were on task or wandering. So checked in while the task was being performed, they were checking in, like going after every 5 minutes, going after every 10 minutes, something. When the task was over, what they did, they measured each participant's working memory capacity by having them remember letters while doing math questions. Though all participants performed well on the task, the researchers noticed. So now the task is finished, and what they have noticed out of finishing. So this starting, though all participants performed well on the task, means it has finished. Then it will obviously come after it is over that we'll say that how was the performance? The performance was good. So whenever you have questions based on experiments, scientific researches, go on verbs. They will help you that what is being happening, what will happen next, and what will happen next. Like this one. Next again is the one based on facts. The brain is our most treasured possession. It coordinates, so it is referring to the brain. First, we said the brain is the most treasured possession that we have. What is the function? It coordinates the movements of words, the relationships, and the ability to pass on our genes. Our body, therefore. Now, therefore is used when you want to say that is why. So that is why can only come when you have given a reason before. So we say our body therefore protects. So therefore means why is it protecting? Because it does so much work for us. Our body therefore protects the organ because it coordinates movements, words, relationships, ability to pass on genes, and that is why we protect this organ. The central nervous system policies particles traveling through the bloodstream and invites only the safest into our cognitive chamber. This selective process, we just said that it policies particles traveling through the bloodstream and invites only the safest. So there are so many particles, but the nervous system only allows or invites the safest one. So they are selecting out of the particles. So this selective process occurs due to a proactive boundary known as the blood-brain barrier. And then the barrier means this barrier, blood-brain barrier is referred to as the barrier. So full name, blood-brain barrier, and the acronym, the barrier. So again, not important to understand protects the organ fiercely, the central nervous system policies particles traveling to. What is the meaning of this is not important. Just getting that overall, okay, there were some particles and they were only inviting the safest. Easy words will help you to understand and make a rough story out of the technical words. And believe me, for solving the questions, we only need to understand that rough story. We really don't need to get into the details of everything. And let's move on to the next one. Exceptional health. So this one says, it is natural to be healthy, but we have wandered so far astray that disease is the rule and good health the exception. A very general sentence that it's natural to be healthy. Everybody feels that they are healthy unless and until we particularly get some disease. But they say at the same time, we have accepted this fact that disease is the rule and good health is an exception. Of course, most people now, of course, is again something important. Of course is again kind of meaning like we used in fact in the previous question. So of course also means that we are emphasizing something, we are accepting something out of a general scenario. So the general scenario is that it is natural to be healthy. Of course, most people are well enough to attend to their work, but nearly all are suffering from some ill, mental or physical, acute or chronic. So here we said that the previous sentence had two parts, positive and negative, but we have accepted that disease is the rule. The second part also is talking on the same context. One is positive, most people are well enough, but nearly all are suffering from disease as well. So it was the explanation of the first sentence only, because the first one was general And the second, we did not explain what do we mean by it is naturally to be healthy. So what do we mean by healthy was that everybody is well enough to do their work. And what did we mean when we said disease is the rule? We said that because everybody has some kind of disease. So kind of specific explanation to a general statement. And then we said there is too much illness, too much suffering, because we said that everybody has some kind of disease. That is why now we are saying there is too much illness and too much suffering. We are losing every year a vast army of individuals who are in their productive prime, the average individual. So first, broader would be vast army of individuals, generally saying that so many, what they mean to say, so many people die every year. And then we talk about an average individual is less value to himself than he could be. So army of individuals would be greater than talking about one average individual. Right, so again, broader and narrow perspective, and here general and more specific information in the first one. International date line. First sentence, definition, international date line. What is it? Imaginary line on the Earth's surface, generally following the 180-degree meridian of longitude, whereby international agreement travelers change dates. Definition comes first. The date line is reference to international date line. Now, the date line means we are talking about the international date line. Is necessary to avoid a confusion that would otherwise result. So we're talking about some confusion. Then we said, for example. So example rule will apply. Before the example will come why we are giving the example. What is the fact that we want to prove with the help of an example. So this says, if an airplane were to travel westward with the sun, 24 hours would elapse as it circled the globe, but it would still be the same day for those in the plane, while it would be 1 day later for those on the ground. So this is the confusion that we have, that if somebody is going on the plane and they pass 24 hours around the sun, so people sitting in the plane will be thinking that it's the same day, or for them it is the same day, but for people on the ground, because 24 hours, 1 day would have passed, so for them there would be the next date. So this is the confusion, and that is why this sentence comes after we said that dateline is necessary to avoid a confusion that would otherwise result. So this is the example that what confusion are we talking about. The same problem. So we should first talk about one problem, then we'll say the same problem would arise if two travelers journeyed in opposite directions to a point on the opposite side of the earth. 180-degree of longitude distance does not matter. The same problem is enough that one confusion, and the same there can be another confusion. The apparent paradox is resolved. Again, verbs play an important role. So once we have talked about all the confusions, then only we'll talk about resolving or solving, obviously. So this comes at the end because this is about solving the problem, but first we'll talk about the problems and then we'll come to solving. Right? Okay, so let's read number 33. This says, fireworks and special effects will also turn the bridge into a giant Aboriginal flag before the 9 p.m. fireworks display. So what can we mark in this is they are saying fireworks and special effects will also turn. So something is first happening. This is the second thing which is happening. The elements that we have, we are talking about fireworks and some kind of special effects, and also is very important. Also means these are also going to happen. Also turn the bridge into a giant Aboriginal flag before the 9 p.m. fireworks display. So we have a time period, 9 p.m. fireworks display. So there are two fireworks happening. One is about which is going to turn into Aboriginal flag, and there's one more which is just a fireworks display. It is about how we are also affected by the harbor and its surrounds, how special it is to all of us and how it moves us, said the Welcome to Country's creative director, Rhoda Roberts. This sentence is very general, is not actually having any keyword, cannot be the first sentence because it says it's about how we all are so affected by the harbor. So we do not have any much information which harbor are they talking about. But yes, we have that this is a statement which is said by the creative director of this Welcome to Countries, can be name of an organization and the name of the person. So we should mark that. Any similarity in the first two sentences or any connection? We are talking about a bridge here and here we are talking about the harbor, can be connected. We know both of them go with the same context. Fireworks and special effects, including a red waterfall from the bridge base, will turn the structure built in 1932 into a giant Aboriginal flag shortly after the sun sets for the last time in 2015. So as compared to the previous two sentences, this one is even more broader because this talks about fireworks and special effects, which were in the previous one as well. But here they have including a red waterfall from the bridge base. So this is one additional feature that they have given. Will turn the structure. Now here we have will also turn the bridge, and here we have will turn the structure, and then they're giving more details about the structure, that this was built in 1932 and they're going to turn it into a giant Aboriginal flag shortly after the sun sets. Now they have also given us when is this going to happen. After the sun sets for the last time in 2015. So we look at 1, 2, and 3 sentences and we can understand that this one, third one, is the broadest because it has the largest number of elements in this. And we mark the years, 2 years were given, and this was also talking about fireworks and special effects, but on a broader basis. The last one is from 8:40 p.m. The bridge will be turned. So here we're talking about the bridge will be turned into a canvas showing the Welcome to Country ceremony. So here we have one element which was the time period because we have already marked time period 9 p.m. In the previous sentence. And here also they're talking about the bridge. Here also they were talking about the bridge. They're going to turn the bridge, and the bridge will be turned into a canvas and showing the Welcome to Country. So Welcome to Country, we read about these 3 words before as well. So now we came to know that we are talking about a bridge which was made in 1932, and we are going to have special effects and fireworks in which will include a red waterfall from the bridge base. And this is going to happen on the last day of 2015 after the sunset. So which is a sentence which has all the information. It is the third one, so that will be the first sentence. And then we have 2 sentences which are talking about time period. From 8:40, the bridge will be turned into this, and 9 p.m. this is going to happen. So obviously we have a chronological order. First we are saying this is going to happen, then we are giving the exact time periods. At 8:40 this is going to happen, at 9 p.m. this is going to happen. So just looking at chronological order, also to the word also tells us that the bridge will be turned into something comes first. It will also turn the bridge into something will come second. So we have 2 hints to place these first and 4 sentences next to each other. What we have left in between is a sentence which is a bit different out of the context, but it has to come at number 2. The reason being, here we only have Welcome to Country ceremony. And here we have a kind of introduction to what was Welcome to Country. For example, this is about that it's about how we are also affected by the harbor. So it is about means it's kind of when they say that we are going to do this celebration, and then they explain the feelings and emotions related to that. So when we first said that we are going to have special effects at this time, then they talk about it's about means is all celebration is about how we are also affected by the harbor and its surrounds, how special it is to all of us and how it moves us, said the Welcome to Country's creative director, this person. So this will come second because it is also explaining the overall general things what are going to happen. And then we start about the details that from 8:40. From also suggests that this is just starting. The bridge will be turned into a canvas showing the welcome to country ceremony. And then the fireworks and special effects will also turn the bridge into a giant Aboriginal flag before the 9 p.m. fireworks display. So this is the answer. The second one, we accept it's a bit confusing, but the reason is that before you go on to giving the details about something, if you have general statements, you should first finish those, and especially when those general statements are covering the overall topic of your discussion. All right. So let's move on to 34, jet stream. So this says, instead of moving along a straight line, the jet stream flows in a wave-like fashion. The waves propagate eastward in the northern hemisphere at speeds considerably slower than the wind speed itself. Let's first mark the elements. They are saying instead of moving along a straight line, the jet stream is the topic. And what is the overall context? We are talking about how the jet stream flows or moves. So we can write here that this is about how it flows or moves, because they're saying it does not move in a straight line, rather it moves in a wave-like fashion. And then what is it? The main is the jet stream. Waves propagate eastward at speeds considerably lower than the wind speed itself. So we can mark that we were talking about speeds also here, and otherwise it was about the movement. Jet stream, narrow, swift currents or tubes of air found at heights ranging from 7 to 8, this is 11.3 to 12.9 kilometers above the surface of the earth. So here we were giving detailing about the movement of jet stream, and here we are kind of explaining what is exactly jet stream and where are they found. These are narrow, swift currents or tubes of air, and they are found at this height above the surface of the earth. So comparing 1 and 2, which one is broader? Second one is broader because it is explaining the topic, not giving the details. This is explaining how, and this is just saying that this is what we are talking about. We're talking about narrow, swift currents or tubes of air which are found at this height. Since the progress of an airplane is aided or impeded depending on whether tailwinds or headwinds are encountered, in the northern hemisphere, the jet stream is sought by eastbound aircraft in order to gain speed and save fuel, and avoided by westbound aircraft. Big sentence, lots of elements. One is airplane, which we have not talked about till now. Then we are saying progress of airplane depending on whether tailwinds or headwinds are encountered. So it's about a choice. We're talking about some kind of winds. Then in the northern hemisphere, we had a sentence talking about northern hemisphere before as well. The jet stream is sought by eastbound aircraft in order to gain speed and save fuel. So I would say again explanation, and this time the explanation is very, very narrow, which is talking about that in this particular direction, if this kind of wind comes, then the speed and the fuel is done in this way. So it's about one particular airplane, not talking about the whole of a general jet stream, giving an example or giving explanation of just one particular airplane in the northern hemisphere, then what kind of wind is there, and then the fuel and the speed is discussed. They are caused, so they, we have to find out, are caused by, so this is the explanation to how are they caused. They are caused by great temperature differences between adjacent air masses. So a general statement, not a brief detailing about something. So now looking at all of these sentences, what should come first is obviously the definition. What is the topic? Jet stream is the topic, and they are found at these many kilometers above the surface of Earth. And then general sentence again, they are caused. They means these currents or tubes of air or jet stream, they are caused by great temperature differences between adjacent air masses. Now, the third one is this, because this same thing is being explained more in detail by the last sentence, which is number 4. So in third one, they said instead of moving along a straight line, they don't move in a straight line, they move in wave-like fashion. The waves propagate eastward at speeds considerably lower. And then we give kind of an example that since the progress of airplane depends upon what kind of winds are there in the northern hemisphere, this happens at this speed, and for saving fuel, they move in this way. So this comes at the end. Otherwise, also by looking at the words, you can understand they is for jet streams, for currents, for tubes of air, because we don't have any other plural noun. And here we talked about northern hemisphere. Here also we are talking about northern hemisphere, but this is more general and this one is more specific. So this will come afterwards. Okay. So moving on next. So we have this sentence, this question with web security. This says, over the past year, a series of privacy gaffes and government attempts to gain access to internet users' online histories have thrust the issue of internet privacy into the spotlight. So I've left the comma part just like we do in the blanks to simplify the sentence. This sentence is this language rather is bit technical, not like a story kind of language. So if you encounter such type of questions in the exams, well, this can be different for every student, that what is the level of difficulty that you have. But whenever you face that difficulty, always try to take the easy words and just get a simple meaning, that what is the sentence talking about. For example, this says that over the past year, so they're talking about what happened in the past or what is happening since the past, a series of privacy gaps, let's say we don't understand that, and governments attempts to gain access to internet users' online histories, we understand this. So government is wanting to gain access into our online histories. This has thrust the issue of internet privacy into the spotlight. So we are talking about privacy on internet is our broad topic. And here we have about past year. Here we are talking about government's attempt. Although Google says the system is designed to filter out any scandalous or potentially compromising queries, the fact that even a fraction of searches can be seen by visitors to the world's biggest search company is likely to come as a shock to internet users who think of web browsing as a private affair. We have another addition, Google says the system. So it's very, very important to find out which system are they referring to here. Google says the system means some kind of system. Google is saying that the system is designed to filter out scandalous or potentially compromising queries. The fact that even a fraction of searches can be seen by visitors, we're talking about visitors here, to the world's biggest search company, which is Google itself, is likely to come as a shock to internet users. So this is saying that Google is giving explanation that some kind of system is made to prevent scandalous activities. But actually, if visitors come to know that their searches can be seen by somebody, this will be a shock to people like us, to internet users. So again, if you see, I just marked the easy words and I created a story out of them. That may be changing. So maybe means possibility is going to change. In the lobby of Google's headquarters in Mountain View, California, computer screens display lists of the words being entered into the company's search engine. So what is happening? What is it all system talking about? They say that the headquarters of Google in California, so we are marking the elements. There are computer screens in California's headquarters, and those screens display words which are being entered into the company search. For example, if I'm searching something on Google, it is being displayed in the headquarters in California. So their screens display list of words being entered into the company's search engine. This presents a challenge to Google and other internet search companies, which have built a multi-billion-dollar industry out of targeted advertising based on the information users reveal about them online. So this presents a challenge. So what is now a challenge for Google and other internet search companies who have made a lot of money out of advertising, and we all understand. So out of this, which is a sentence which is telling us that where is the problem starting from? So problem is starting from that in California, in the lobby of Google's headquarters, there whatever we searched is coming on a screen. And then although Google says that the system means this system of having a screen and the words are coming there. So they say this system is designed to filter out the negative things, but this is likely to come as a shock for people. So these are two sentences. Now they say that may be changing. Now this situation, whatever is happening, that may be changing. And why is a need to change that? Because over the last years, privacy on internet has become a very, very important topic. So internet privacy has come into the spotlight because governments are entering into it, that to make it a secure portal. So when governments are entering into it, and this privacy has come into the issue of internet privacy has come into spotlight, more and more people are concerned about it. So this is now a problem for Google and other companies, because they'll have to change the whole of their systems if people are against this. So this was kind of a story in a difficult language, and the method of solving such kind of questions is only mark the easy words and try to link them, that what will happen first, what is the problem, what can be the solution. So this is how it goes, that the problem is there's a system and that system is a problem, and we need to change that system because privacy has become a common topic, and this is going to be a problem for those companies who have invested billions of dollars in their industries. All right. And let's move on to number 36. So the 36th one says, to support e-commerce, we need effective payment systems and secure communication channels and data integrity. Easy sentence, giving us what do we need for effective or to support e-commerce. So we need one this, and we need three things to support e-commerce. But why are we talking about these things? Why are we talking about these needs? What is the topic? Cash transactions offer both privacy and anonymity, as it does not contain information that can be used to identify the parties nor the transaction history. The previous sentence was about e-commerce. This one is about cash transactions, and they're giving the benefits of cash transaction, that it has privacy, it has anonymity, nobody can track, nobody can there's no transaction history, so nobody comes to know about such kind of payments. So benefits basically. Electronic transactions. Now e-commerce and electronic transactions are related. Electronic transactions are happening in closed group networks and internet. Electronic commerce. Now e-commerce has the full form. Electronic commerce is one of the most important aspects of internet to emerge. So out of 1 and 3, which one will be broader? Obviously 3, because 3 has the full form, electronic commerce. And here we are just saying it's one of the most important aspects of internet. And then what do we need for that will come under that. Moreover, that means we are continuing some topic. Money is worth what it is because we have come to accept it. Now money would be cash transactions. So these are connected. The whole structure of traditional money is built on faith, and so will electronic money have to be. Now this sentence has both traditional money as well as electronic money, which were discussed in the other two sentences. So which is the broadest sentence? A sentence which gives us the starting. Cash transactions offered, because this is a fact. It's not like we need something, it's already something that we have. So if there are sentences in which one is saying what is the current situation and one is saying what do we need to do, obviously the current will come first, because the future is always anticipated or predicted on the basis of what we currently have. So this will be first, in which we say we are giving the benefits of cash transactions. So there was another sentence which gave the benefit of cash transactions. So this says cash transactions offer 1, 2, 3. Moreover, it is worth of something and something, right? And then there's one sentence which talks about both of them. Whenever your question has two different aspects, like in this we have traditional money and we have electronic money, there is 90% of the times one sentence which talks about both of them. So that is your transition sentence from one point to another. So once we finish talking about cash transactions, we will put this transitional sentence which talks about both of them, and then we'll shift on to the other side of the story. This says the whole structure of traditional money is built on faith, and so will electronic money have to be. That means this is what we need based on what we have in the present. And then we already discussed that out of e-commerce and electronic commerce, what will come first is electronic commerce comes first and e-commerce comes second, just basis on what is full form and what is acronym. So this is one type of question that comes in which we have two different concepts or aspects being discussed, and one sentence is the transitional because it has both the things into it. This can be one type of question in the exam. So let's move ahead to number 37. Okay, this one says Marcuse. Marcuse arrived in October 1577 at the abundant town of Santa Elena with 2 ships carrying prefabricated posts and heavy planking. Seems to be a person, because only a person can arrive with 2 ships. So name of the person, arrive, we have a time, a date, month and year, and we have the name of a town with 2 ships. So this person came with 2 ships carrying these things. Is a complete sentence. The first thing is to just judge it on the basis of whether it is complete or whether it is a referential sentence. The town had flourished. So here we have a reference. The town means this town, which we have already named, had flourished nearly 400 residents since its establishment more than a decade earlier in 1566 by Pedro Menendez de Aviles, who had founded La Florida and St. Augustine the year before. Too many names. The town had flourished means this town with nearly these many people. And since its establishment more than a decade earlier, so this is the person, I think, who established it. So it had a lot of, it has a lot of proper nouns, but still we know that this sentence cannot come before this one, though the year is this 1577 and 1566, because we cannot put the town first and then we name the town. And also we introduce that what kind of town it is at the abundant town of this, and this is an introduction rather than saying just the noun, the town. This is a very good example of those questions in which we have years given and we simply look at the years and we frame our answer. So this is a good lesson not to do that. You still, even if you feel like this is going to happen, still you have to read the sentences. Now see, if we just look at it, we have 3 years, 66, 77 and 71. So if we just randomly put it, it's going to go wrong. He erected, now he is the person. Who is he here? erected Fort San Marcos in 6 days in defense against a Native American attack, such as the one that forced the abandonment of the town a year earlier. So this some person, he erected some fort, the name of the fort, in 6 days in defense against Native American attack, such as the one that forced the abandonment of the town again we have. In 1571, it became the capital of La Florida. So there's a time period again, and it became the capital. Now it would be obviously the town that we are talking about. So how do we go? Which is the sentence which is introducing? The first one is introducing that the name of the town, which is very, very important before we say the town, the town. So we'll put that first. This sentence was, the emphasis of this sentence was on the person. It was like, this person came in this year, he came with 2 ships and those 2 ships were carrying these things. So the emphasis was on this person. That is why we should put he after that, because this sentence starting with he is also talking about the person. So both the sentences will be talking about the person only. So some person arrived in this year with 2 ships. He erected this fort in 6 days in defense against Native American attack. And then the next sentence is, we are saying, this is number 3, the town had flourished. So here we gave further information about the town. And here we introduced La Florida, which we are using in this. So here we say this person who had founded La Florida and St. Augustine the year before, and in 1571 it became the capital of La Florida. Now we already know what is this and who has founded this place. So that will come later on at number 4. Right, so this is, the numbering is clear. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, moving on to 38. So in 38, we have Liberals Mayor Joe Denver, who was raised in a Democratic family near Chicago and moved to Liberal in search of work. So we have the name of a person, and who is this person is also given. This person is Liberals Mayor. He was raised in a Democratic family near Chicago and moved to Liberal in search of work is kind of introduction that what is the background of this person and where he lived and why did he move, and also the designation, he is the mayor of Liberal. The town of Liberal. Now, how do we come to know that Liberal is a town? Or the town of Liberal can be a party as well. Okay, the town of Liberal is said to have been named for an early settler famous among travelers for being free with drinking water. So this was named because of some settler, and we are talking about free with drinking water. So we're talking about some town here and the name of the town. This should make the town receptive to Democrats, but Mr. Trump easily won the country of which it forms part. This should make means there is some story. This should make the town receptive to Democrats. Now, Democrats feels like, again, there's like a political party kind of thing. So this should make the town receptive to Democrats. This should mean there is something happened, because of which they say that the people of that town should not be very supporting to Democrats, but Mr. Trump easily won the country. So again, we have one more person here. Mr. Denver voted for Mr. Trump by being impressed by his promise, though he thinks it unlikely that the president will keep his promises. So we have already talked about who is this person. If we look at 1 and 4, which one will come first is 1 will come first, because here we have the introduction that who is Joe Denver, and here we only have Mr. Denver, so that will come later on. Full name and acronym. Liberal is conservative in a moderate Midwestern kind of way. which is changing fast due to big national beef packing plant, which relies on Hispanic migrants, and thus 4/5 of the children in liberals public school system are Hispanic. So it's kind of a political context. So they say liberal may be the town, it is conservative, but this is changing because of some beef packing plant, which relies on, now H is capital, means it is talking about a place, name of a place. Hispanic migrants mean migrants from this place, and thus 4/5 of the children in this town's public school are Hispanic. So now if we look at the whole scenario, which is a sentence which is introducing that where is this whole situation based in. So it is based in the town of Liberal. So here we get to know that what is Liberal. Liberal is the name of town, because everywhere else we are talking about Liberal, Liberal, Liberal. So that can be name of a political party, as I said, but no, it's about the town. The town of Liberal is said to be named because of some free with drinking water. And then explaining more about the town, we say what is Liberal. What happens in Liberal is it's a very conservative, but because of this beef packing plant, there are more migrants coming from Hispanic place. So 4/5 of the children in this school are Hispanic. Now this is a situation. After situation, we'll obviously say what is the, why are we mentioning this situation, is this should make the town receptive to Democrats. This whole thing that they are like in most of the places, whenever there are more migrants, people are generally against that. So they say having so many migrants, this should make the town receptive to Democrats, but still Mr. Trump won the country. And then out of the last two, we have one full name, Joe Denver, and then we have the acronym Mr. Denver. The first three sentences had to be carefully chosen. The first one is what is Liberal, what is happening, because if we just say the town of Liberal is said to be named after this person, how can we say this should make the town receptive? Nothing has happened. We just said how it is named. So this should make the town receptive played a very important role. This tells us that there should be something happening because of which they have said this should make. So these are the answers for this one. Okay, 39 we have is okay, 39 we have this children's depression. One line of evidence comes from studies of children's belief about their own ability to control what happens in their lives. For example, being able to change things for the better. This assessed by children's rating of themselves in such terms as, when I have problems at home, I am better than most kids at helping to solve problems. And when I work hard, I get good grades. A lot of information, but the most important thing was evidence. One, this is an evidence to something that we are talking about already, because we know that examples come after we explain things. So one line of evidence means one proof comes from the studies of children's belief about their own ability. So we're talking about children, the ability to control what happens in their lives. So this is the example given, that if what do they feel about themselves is, when I have problems at home, I am better than most kids. So this is what children feel. Just as with adults, pessimistic ways of interpreting defeats seem to feed the sense of helplessness and hopelessness at the heart of children's depression. That people who are already depressed think in these ways has long been known. So we have some addition. We're talking about adults, and helplessness and hopelessness at the heart of children's depression, all negative things, that people who are already depressed think in these ways has long been known. This insight, so this previous sentence was all negative. This next one says, this insight suggests a window of opportunity for inoculating them against depression before it strikes. So this is a positive sentence because window of opportunity is always used in a positive way. That's a way of hope for us. And then we say against depression. So obviously positive. What has only recently emerged, though, is that children's beliefs about their own ability to control what happens in their lives. We read words like this earlier as well. Children's belief about their own ability to control what happens in their life was given here as well. And then was the example to that thing. And here we have added some more information. What has recently changed is this thing, children's beliefs about their own ability. So now what is the topic? This sentence is saying what has changed, what has recently emerged means we have recently come to know something. This insight, we have to talk about something that we can use this for. This is again evidence. So what are we left with this is the topic, which says just like adults, even children can face depression like hopelessness and helplessness. So that's why this comes first. And now comes this thing, what has only recently emerged. This that we say that children can also have depression, but recently we have come to know is that children's beliefs about their own ability to control what happens in their lives. This is the positive thing that we have come to know recently. And for this, they are saying this insight suggests a window of opportunity for inoculating them against depression before it strikes. And then they give examples like what kind of things we can do against depression is to instill positive things into their minds for being able to change their lives for better. So if we look at this is also positive statement. So this story was based on, you could have we could have got the answer by just telling us which sentence is positive, which is negative. If we are able to segregate that, we can make the pair. So first is negative sentence, and then we say recently we have come to know something, and this is a window of opportunity, because in this way, like for example, in this way we are able to change things for the better. So this is it. Next we have a very small question about pandas. So they say people didn't know pandas well. Didn't means past tense. In the past, they did not know about pandas well. Now people can attach a GPS to them. Now, them means we are talking about pandas. And we, I think, discussed in the last video as well that whenever we use now, before that we use something of the past. Then it is found 5 pandas habitats sometimes overlap. So this is about finding. This GPS, now this GPS means where we have talked about GPS can transmit data every couple of hours for up to 2 hours. So this was like people didn't know pandas well, but now we can attach a GPS and then we make a reference to this GPS can transmit us data. And from that data, what we found is then it is found. This was kind of easy, just the chronological order being followed. And let's look at 41. Entrepreneurial knowledge. To deal with uncertainty and ignorance, economists have recognized the entrepreneur as possessing this non-rational form of knowledge. So what we have here is to deal with something. Then we have economists, people, they have recognized. So as I say, always say verbs are important. They have recognized the entrepreneur as possessing this non-rational form of knowledge. So this is important here. What kind of knowledge are we talking about? Entrepreneurial knowledge is essentially intuitive. So here we have name of the knowledge, which here we said this form of knowledge. So here we have name of knowledge. Ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. So again, we are now having what is opposite of knowledge. Like some ancient priest king, the entrepreneur knows the future and leads his people. An easy statement, that kind of he's the leader. It involves seeing and realizing a vision of future markets, products, or opportunities. So it involves explanation, kind of giving, like we say that this is a term and what does this term mean. So this is it. So here every sentence is talking about knowledge, and so first we'll introduce that what is the topic. Entrepreneurial knowledge is essentially intuitive, and this is a term because E is capital entrepreneurial knowledge, and then we'll explain that what it includes. It involves seeing and realizing a vision of future markets, products, other opportunities. This is the kind of definition being given to entrepreneurial knowledge. And then in this sentence, we said uncertainty and ignorance. So first we should introduce what is ignorance, because we have a sentence which introduces ignorance. So this will come first. Ignorance is opposite of knowledge. And then we'll say to deal with ignorance, because we introduced ignorance, that ignorance is this. And then to deal with ignorance, economists have recognized the entrepreneur as possessing this non-rational form of knowledge. And in the last, we have some kind of a general statement that like some ancient priest king, the entrepreneur knows the future and leads his people, because it's going out of the context of what we were talking, was very technical. What is ignorance? What is entrepreneurial knowledge? How should we deal with it? And then a statement which is kind of out of the context, so that will come at the end. So this here, if you see this rational form of knowledge, by just looking at this, we should not put it next to knowledge, because we have definitions given, we have introductions to certain other terms. So first we have to introduce everything before we use it in a very casual way, like here to deal with ignorance. So first we'll introduce what is ignorance if we have that. So this was 5, sorry. The next one we have is 42, fiscal deficit. Industry 2 is not ready to deliver growth. So industry 2 means there is something else also which is not ready to deliver growth. Should even the government pursue the right policies? And also we are talking about industry not ready to deliver growth means industry is not going good, not growing. And also we are talking about government's right policies. The fiscal deficit has deteriorated. So this is something which has happened. Fiscal deficit, a very, very broader term. Fiscal deficit is when the expenditure of the government is more than their income. So this is fiscal deficit. So they say it has deteriorated. Deficit is a negative word. The first thing is definitely we should understand that deficit means lacking of something. So it has deteriorated means worsened. The current reform space is too slow. Now reforms are always done to improve some situation. For example, we say the government has introduced this reform to correct this situation or to correct this problem. So reforms are always when something has gone bad, we introduce a reform to correct that. The current reform space is too slow. Very, very slow reforms are happening. Thus, a good budget is one which makes a sincere attempt to change the policy environment. So thus kind of concluding everything and explaining what is a good budget. There are big gaps in perception and capability of managers. So big gaps about, and we have a new word, managers here, which we did not talk about before. Government finances are terminally impaired with uncontrolled fiscal deficits. So here we are talking about the finances of the government. They are impaired, they have uncontrolled fiscal deficits, and we already talked about fiscal deficit. So what is the first sentence? Which first sentence will be something which has already happened, which is the topic. The fiscal deficit has deteriorated. So this is a situation we are in. The next one is the current reform space, and whatever we are doing to correct it is very, very slow. The current reforms, current is a very important word because it means now what we are doing. Something has happened. Now what we are doing to correct it, it is very slow. Then we say one other negative thing, industry 2 is not, because this says this is a second thing not going good. So what is the first thing not going good is reforms are going very slow, and also industry is not giving any growth. So these two was related with one negative and the second negative. So this was the relationship in there. And then we have, once we talk about industry, so the narrow sentence would be managers. Why is industry not delivering growth? Because the managers are not performing good, because managers can come under industries. Industry means like the businesses, and in businesses it is a fault of the managers why it is not performing good. So after industry we'll talk about managers because they go in the same context. And then there's one sentence which says thus a good budget is one, in which makes a sincere attempt to change the policy environment. And one, we have government finances are terminally impaired with uncontrolled fiscal deficits. One positive and one negative, and the whole situation we are talking about is negative. So we should first finish that negative statements, and then we should conclude that okay, fine, does a good budget is one. So what is the meaning of a good budget that we have to make to change this scenario? So again, the positive negative segregation played an important role, that we can understand we are going negative and we're left with two sentences, one positive and one negative. Most of the time the negative scenario will finish and then the positive one will start. In this can also work. Also does makes an important role. Also this sentence about a good budget, we hadn't talked about budget till now, but yes, we were talking about fiscal deficits and government. So this was a topic going on. So we should first finish that topic rather than moving on to what can be the solution or what we have to do to get rid of all these problems. So this is number 6 at the end. Right, let's move ahead to 43, non-performing assets. This says yet, very important word. Yet is like, you can read yet as but still. But and still together can make it easier for you. So but still the fact remains that. So the fact remains, that we must have discussed some fact, and we say whatever be the reason, the fact still remains there. Yet but still the fact remains that the banks allowed themselves to be pressurized into lowering their guard in the one area of business that is and should be their bread and butter of existence, and that area is risk management. The response from the banks is to concentrate on how reducing the amount and number of accounts in this, on somehow reducing the amount and number of accounts in this category. So we were talking about banks, but I think the most important hint is yet the fact remains this. So when we say yet the fact remains is when we have from our side given the reasons for something, we say but still whatever reasons, the fact still remains. And they are talking about banks, they're talking about risk assessment. And then they say the response from banks is to concentrate on somehow reducing the amount and number of accounts in this category. This category is again very important. So which accounts are we talking about? Which category of accounts is being talked about in here? The one major cause for the current weakened state of Indian banks is the level and volume of non-performing assets. The problem has not been looked at in its proper perspective. So we say one major cause for the current weakened state of Indian banks is level and volume of non-performing assets. This is kind of a topic till now that we are talking about, that we have at such a big level and volume of non-performing assets is the reason for weakened state of Indian banks, and the problem has not been looked properly. The casual explanations, and we have hyphen and hyphen. Hyphen and hyphen means they have given the examples of the explanations, which is political interference, willful defaults, targeted lending, and even fraudulent behavior by banks. All these are explanations, have some grain of truth in them. So we are here talking about what are the explanations given for this problem. Descriptions such as deceased portfolio and figures running into thousands of crores have all led to treating the problem as a major one-time aberration requiring emergency treatment. So in this one, we are talking about descriptions such as deceased portfolio. We really don't understand that. Figures running into thousands of crores. We can understand that. Have all led to treating the problem. So what is the problem here? Before that, we should introduce the problem, and this requires emergency treatment. So which is a sentence which is giving us the topic is number 2, which is saying that the problem we are going to discuss today is the non-performing assets, the volume and level of non-performing assets in Indian banks. And then here we talked about level and volume of non-performing assets. So let's talk about thousands of crores, because we have talked about volume and level. So level is description such as deceased portfolio in inverted commas means that can be a level, and volume is there, these are in thousands of crores. So these are two reasons, and then they say all led to treating the problem. The problem is this problem of non-performing assets. And then but still the fact remains. So first we'll give the explanation. This is the casual explanations, but still the fact is that they have to concentrate on somehow reducing the amounts or accounts in this category. So again, but still made a very, very important role here. So this is the answer, and these are the hints. Volume and level is deceased portfolio and thousands of crores. And then explanations, we have explanations, but still we have to focus on reducing these things. I hope it makes sense. And we are moving to 44. So 44 says, these fruits will make your clients spend more time with you and also add to your profit. So these fruits is important. We must be talking about some fruits. Will make your clients spend more time with you and also add to your profits. Bit strange. Fruits related to profits, fruits related to clients spending more time. But still, what are the fruits here? Some cafes can get away with being plain vanilla. Okay, we're talking about cafes, but others cannot. Seems to make sense. Some, like we say, some people say this, others say that. So that's a good way of connection. Some cafes can do this and this, but others cannot. But still, let's move ahead. The bigger your cafe, the more is the need for additional mean of income. So this also understand that if it is big, we need more income. Thrills ranging from video games to burgers cover the rest. Okay, we're talking about video games, burgers cover the rest. This is because the returns from browsing cover only a percentage of your costs. Okay. So this is talking about cover only a percentage. These things cover the rest. Means whatever is not covered by the first part. So what is the topic? We are talking about cafes. So let's start with general statements. Some cafes are this, but others cannot. So a general start. And then they are saying, we're talking about cost, but first we should give that we need income, extra income. So we'll say if the bigger your cafe, the more is the need for additional mean of income. Now, from where these incomes will come and why do we need extra income? This is because means we're giving the explanation. So we said we need additional mean of income because the returns from browsing only cover a percentage of the costs. So if in the cafe we'll have only browsing, we cannot cover the cost. So for rest of the costs, we need thrills ranging from video games to burgers to cover the rest of the cost. So these fruits means these fruits, thrills, video games, and burgers. So these fruits will make your clients spend more time. So obviously if in the cafe they have something to eat, so they'll spend more time. And if they'll spend time, they'll spend on buying something, so that will increase your profit. So kind of understandable language, not a difficult one. So next is number 45. Let's begin. This says, this book is chock-a-block full of intrusive stories and practical advice describing Carton's activities at Windrusser, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, and SAS in particular. So there's a book we are talking about. It has stories, it has advice. We describing this person's activity. So C is capital, Carton's activities means it's the name of the persons at one place, two place, and three names of places. By the time he got to 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, so we talked about 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 4 years later, he had learned many lessons. In fact, he began his second stint as top dog, okay, by calling the entire company together in a hangar and asking for help, a far cry from his barking out commands just 48 months back. A lot of a big story. He began at Windrusser. So again, we have the name of the thing, and here we have began. And the previous thing, by the time he got to 4 years later. So it's after something. He began at this place as an order giver, not a listener, neither to his people nor to his customers, and made every mistake in the book. At SAS, he arrived at a time crisis. So each sentence is talking about one particular place, and there was one sentence which had the names of all three places. So the broadest one is this, in which we have the names of Windrusser, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, and SAS, and then we can just put them one by one. The first one was Windrusser, the second one was 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, and the third one was SAS. Easy. So you see, like we say in blanks also, when the language is tough, the answers are actually easy because they are in that case not based on understanding of language. They are more based on just finding that one hint. And if you get that, like in this, the hint was okay, they're just talking about one by one. So we can just put them in order like they're mentioned in the first sentence. So otherwise the story was not easy to understand. So let's see the next one, which is sports administrators. The potential exchanges between the officials of IBBF and the Maharashtra Body Building Association has all the tappings of a drama we are accustomed to. So we're talking about two organizations. Potential exchanges between officials of IBBF. Why I marked IBBF is I'll try to find the full form of this acronym. And the other body is Maharashtra Bodybuilding Association, and they have all the trappings of a drama we are accustomed to, not possible to understand at this stage. It is a matter of deep regret and concern that the sports administrators often cause more harm to the image of the country than sportsmen and sportswomen do through their dismissal performances. A general statement that it's very sad that sports administrations we have here, they cause more harm to the image of the country than the second thing we have is sportsmen and sportswomen through their performances. So they're making a comparison that people do feel bad by the bad performances of sportsmen and sportswomen, but even worst is the things done by sports administrators. A case in the point. Now, a case in the point means example. One example is the hefty penalty of 10,000 US dollars slapped on the Indian Bodybuilding Federation, IBBF. Indian Bodybuilding Federation for not fulfilling its commitment for holding the Asian Championships in Mumbai in October. This is one example of something. In case of sports persons, there is room for some sympathy, but the apathy of the administrators, which has even led to sanctions from international bodies, is unpardonable. So this is talking about sports persons and administrators. There was another sentence which talked about both of them, administrators and sports persons. So what is the topic? Topic is that what is the sad reality? Sports organizations do more harm. Continuing with the thing, because they say in case of sports person, we still have sympathy, okay? Like we sometimes say that it's not his day today, that's why. Or we say, even if one of our team members in Olympics does not win, we say that, okay, he tried his best. So still people have sympathy. But the mistakes done by administrators, it is unpardonable, means we cannot even forgive them. And then what is next is they are giving an example that what are we trying to say, that what are the mistakes they do. So one case is this, when a hefty penalty was slapped on IBBF. So this can simply be put on the basis of full name and the acronym. IBBF comes later. First will be Indian Bodybuilding Federation. This pair makes sense with acronym rule. This pair makes sense because it is explaining the same thing, one in broader way and one in specific, narrower way. Moving ahead, 47. The Fifth Pay Commission, barring P. Chidambaram, who was then the finance minister. So we have the name of the person who was then means we're talking about some particular situation, event or time. Finance minister, every single political party and politician opposed the implementation of the recommendations and are directly responsible for the current fiscal crisis in the center and the states. Name of a person, designation, and then we have opposed the implementation of the recommendations. Maybe we have what kind of recommendations are they talking about? It reminds us of the political shenanigans during the implementation of the Fifth Pay Commission. Written in capitals can be important. Here was a commission. So a commission means again one particular situation. Here was a commission whose members worked very hard, did exemplary research and homework before coming up with a list of recommendations. So a list of recommendations and the recommendations that balanced economic efficiency with safety nets for disadvantaged labor. How many times have you heard experts, politicians, and the finance minister refer to the implementation of the pay hikes following the commission's report as the singular cause for the increase in government expenditure? Question mark. So here we have names of, we are saying experts, politicians, and the finance minister. And here we say, how many times have you heard these people refer to? So means they are talking about it. They are saying it again and again. They argue. Now they argue again can be these people, because we just said that they talk about that. They argue that it is this which has led to the bankruptcy in many states. It is this which has led to bankruptcy. So something leading to bankruptcy obviously will be related to expenditure. So this means the government's expenditure, which has led to bankruptcy. So if we look, they argue cannot be the first sentence. Here was a commission. As I said, it's one very narrow example about one commission. So the first sentence, and here again, the recommendations cannot come because you've already made the pair with a list of recommendations. So the first one will be this one, in which we have that which commission are we talking about again and again. So it was the during the implementation of the 5th pay commission. And then we will say, how many times have you heard experts, politicians, and finance minister refer to the implementation of pay hikes following the commission's report? So the commission means this particular commission, 5th pay commission. So they said implementation of 5th pay commission. Implementation of what? Implementation of the pay hikes following the commission means the 5th pay commission's report. That's why this comes second. And in this one, we talked about experts, politicians, and finance ministers saying something. So what were they saying? They argued that this government expenditure is the reason of bankruptcy. And what are we left with is, now we already have this pair, a list of recommendations and the recommendations. So the pairs were a list of recommendations and the recommendations. Here we have they, and we have the names of the persons, as well as it is this. This was important. This means the expenditure. And the commission means the 5th pay commission. So everything was just based on reference. Hoping it's clear, and moving ahead to number 48. So 48 is watching elephants. Sometimes the matriarch even fed 𝗵𝗵𝗁. So 𝗵𝗵𝗁 is with capital B, can be the name of something. And we don't really understand what is matriarch here. While watching elephants in the Samburu National Reserve in northern Kenya, I noticed one that walked very slowly. Okay, so the situation is explaining what is happening. Somebody is watching elephants at this national reserve, and that person noticed one that walked very slowly. So one elephant is walking slowly. They would walk a while. So who are they? They would walk a while and then stop and look around to see where she was. So who's she? Depending on how she was doing, they would either wait or go on. Now again, she, and they would either wait or go on. Elephant expert Len Douglas Hamilton told me that this female elephant, 𝗵𝗵𝗁, had been crippled for years, but the other members of the herd had never left her. Okay, so this female elephant means we are talking about one particular elephant. The name of the elephant is 𝗵𝗵𝗁, had been crippled for years, but the other members of the herd, they never left her. So the story is becoming clear. So one person was watching elephants at a national reserve, and it noticed one elephant that walked slowly. So elephant expert told him that the name of the elephant is 𝗵𝗵𝗁, and he had been crippled for years, but the other members never left her. Then we have is they would walk a while. They means the other members of the herd, they walk and they stop to look around where she was. And the next is depending on how she was doing, means when they look and then they say, then depends if how she was doing. If she's doing good, they will walk on, and if she's not going good, then they will wait for her. So the simple story going on. And because this first sentence is coming nowhere in the continuous story, so let's put it at the end. So it will come at the end. Sometimes the matriarch even fed Babel. So because other 4 sentences were simple story. So we followed that. So they here refers to the other members of the herd, and she refers to this elephant, Babel. And I think we have done the 49 before. It's a repetition here. So let's look at number 50th. Children may learn from interactive media. However, we are happy we have got a hint in the first sentence. However means we are going opposite to something. So before this sentence will come the opposite of this. However, learning from video isn't the same as learning from direct experience, and until age 2 or 3 years, children appear to have difficulty learning from media that are not interactive. So however, we are saying that it's learning from video is not same as direct experience, like we all are experiencing nowadays. No face-to-face classes, only online learning, same is being talked about. Especially for children. We already know that children engage cognitively when they watch TV and can learn from well-designed educational TV programs. So here we were talking about negative, about the learning from video. Here we are talking about positive. Children engage cognitively when they watch TV, because TV is also just like video watching, and can learn from well-designed educational TV programs. So positive and negative. This may be because video is presented in 2 dimensions. So we are giving a reason about video. Older preschoolers also have trouble learning from media when they are tested on more difficult tasks. So older preschoolers also have, means somebody else also has, and maybe these are these 2-3 years children, because these are the only people we have talked about, or here we are no children. Also, video lacks many cues that support learning. For example, people and characters in video can't react to learners' facial expressions or respond to a learner's questions. So also one more negative thing about video. So in this one, the first sentence, because this is also, because this is however, so means we have to start on a positive note. We already know that children engage cognitively when they are watching educational TV programs. And then we'll say the negative. However, learning from video is not same like the direct experience until age 2 or 3 years. So here we talked about small children. And we have also the bigger children, older means the bigger ones than them. So aged more than 3 years. So older preschoolers also have trouble, because we finished that small, young children. And then we say this may be because, so we have started giving the reasons that why do they have troubles. This may be because video is presented in 2 dimensions, and can be another problem that video lacks many cues that support learning. So these are 2 reasons, which starts with because, one, and then also means the other reason for saying that video is not good for learning or not same as direct experience. So the hints were based on however, based on also, here also. So if we just look at also things, it will become clear that what are the pairs. So in total, we would have covered around 48 questions, I think, combining both the videos. And we really hope that these are being beneficial to you. So in this one, we have jumbled the sentences. In the first one, we did not do so, just to give you information from all aspects and perspectives that we can. So hopefully this will go good, and there's 1/3 part coming up as well. So all the very best.